Welcome back to Pallets to Pints. You know, when I was asked to see if I could find a couple of incredibly valuable individuals to join me for a conversation today, I looked no further than these two gentlemen right here. They are pioneers in the total beverage industry in terms of moving the industry forward, thinking ahead of the game, and helping future-proof businesses across the landscape. And so today I'm joined by Bill Kraich, who is the platform evangelist for Encompass Technologies. Bill and I have, what?
So you got that right.
I got that. Okay, there we go. I just learned that new title today. But he truly is. I don't think there's a better face that represents Encompass from that perspective in terms of notoriety across the industry. You're everywhere all the time. So
try to be.
Great to have you here today.
Thank you.
And then Todd Morillo with Eagle Rock, who is Director of Sales Technology. And so I think today we can have a really amazing conversation around how customer and service provider interact, what some of those challenges look like, and how we carve that path forward in terms of solving solutions and creating space to really drive industry transformation and efficiencies. So before we get started, let's cheers and get going here. Cheers. All right, so you both sit on opposite ends of the table here, right? Customer, provider, we're all partners here in this game, but you've clearly found common ground in terms of working together, identifying opportunities in the way that problems can be solved, and in a big way, how data can solve that. Todd, from your perspective, we'll start with you. What do you think the key to building that kind of partnership in a space where tech solutions can fall flat at any time from that perspective? So like what's key and important to driving a functional partnership that's long lasting?
Sure, I think it's understanding that ultimate success happens outside of our own four walls. We measure our ultimate success in how well we've serviced our retailers, how good of a partner we are for our customers and our retailers. So Encompass has provided us with solutions and platforms that help us to be the best partner we can be.
And you know, Bill, when it comes to Encompass, and you guys are doing incredible things in the industry, leveraging the amount of data that's out there, upstream, downstream. There's tons of data everywhere, living in a ton of different silos. How do you all make that work for your distributor customers? And how do you drive that engagement in terms of the partnership and how effective it can be?
First, I really liked what you said, right? Because you started, hey, it doesn't happen inside of our walls, and it's our customers. Those are who we're here for, right? And I mean, the customer first mentality. Years ago in tech, there used to be a buzzword, and it was customer obsessed. Like everybody you hire had to be customer obsessed, right? And I don't know why that's gone away and like why nobody cares about their customer anymore, but there's a few businesses that still do. One of those is places like Eagle Rock. Distributors primarily are, fall into that category. Eagle Rock definitely, but it's the customer first, right? You make sure that the customer succeeds and thrives, and then you're going to be right there with them the whole way, right? And we have the same approach, and so it's not about the ticky-tacky stuff of the business. It's about are our customers getting the results that they are looking for, right? And that's how we measure, are we doing a good job or not? So like it's no surprise that we found each other and have stayed with each other for so long, right? Because I think we share that same sort of attitude and mindset.
On that point, what does Encompass do to drive that value for your customers and how you innovate and how you gather feedback? What does that process look like? Too much?
I mean, no. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, right? And so there's more than one way to answer that question. But one of my favorite ways to answer this question is a few years ago. We do a conference every year. You guys have all been to Beverage, but we had a stat that we put up on the board, and it said, our team had spent 8 years on the road that year. So when you added up all of the time that all of our people were on site with all of our customers and helping, it added up to like 8 years. It was incredible how much time we were actually out there. So we're not absent, right? We're in the back pocket. We're next to you. We're out in the field. Like we see what's going on. And there's only one way to understand how this stuff works, and it's to just do it and be a part of it. And like how Encompass was founded, we were founded from a beer distributor. So like it was beer distributor centric from day one, and it's always been that way. So we've just always been focused on like, what is your day to day? What does it look like? What does it look like today? And then, the next level is like, how do we make sure that we're working on what you need tomorrow and the day after that? And that's really special. Like when you can get to that place and you're working on those things, like you obviously are covering the first base, and you get to that next level, and then you really got something special going on. And we're lucky to have that happening.
How many hours did you say traveling?
It was 8 years.
8 years? 8 years. So,
yeah.
As a benchmark, I can tell my wife I don't really travel that much because
exactly.
That's a lot. And Todd, from your perspective, as you provide feedback to Encompass, or you see an opportunity in maybe how the dashboard looks or how it might be able to function differently, Bill and I'll have a discussion about all those types of offerings. But from the end user experience, how has that experience been for you as you've worked with Encompass for over a decade now?
I think the experience has been fantastic. One of the things that we're especially proud of is our evolution together. You guys mentioned that you started as kind of beer-centric, focused just on beer, as did we. But over our years of partnerships together, you've evolved with us from a portfolio standpoint. You provided us solutions that enable us to bring that very diverse, very complex portfolio to the market effectively. And it's been a very interesting and productive collaboration, I think, to have evolved together.
Oh yeah, because you came online in 2015, 2014.
I think so, 2014.
Somewhere. And back then, the reality was most wholesalers were, monolibationists, right? They're beer only, or they were spirits only, or wine and spirits, right? Like that, you were just kind of in this zone. And there were a handful of companies that were like building these mega portfolios, and you're one of them, right? And I think what we saw we're out in the field all the time, and we see this, we're like, oh shit, that's distributor of the future, right? So we got to work, we started putting into building the things that the customer base was going to meet, and keep in mind, like the TAM of the business was not there. Right, it was going to be there, so we built to where it needed to be, and partnerships like this helped us get there because we didn't know what the answer was, and I think from a technical perspective, you didn't know what the answer was either, but we knew what the problem was, and together we got to the answer, and it's super super helpful.
I feel like the person who walks in the room and tries to pretend like they know all the answers never gets that far, right? Because we're all learning every day. Looking at innovation, what are some of the biggest, I'll start with you, Bill, what are some of the biggest blockers to the success of innovation within this industry? Is it just living in the past? Is it not thinking and trying to future-proof your business? Like what holds innovation back? Specifically in beer, I think we all know, but as the lines kind of have continued to blur and will continue to blur.
There's the myth. There's a myth out there, and the myth is perpetrated by a handful of bad actors, I'll say. And this myth is that the three tiers cannot work together, and somebody's telling each tier that each tier's backwards and they're out of date and they can't do anything. So there's somebody out there telling suppliers, right? Oh, distributors they've got dirty data, they can't be trusted. You need us to like clean it all up, right? And they're just casting this shadow over the rest of the industry. And I think it's the same people, but they're out there telling the distributors like, your suppliers can't handle like anything, like you need us to make sure that we get them the right information. Oh, and your retailers are incapable of pushing a button, right? They can't operate a computer, and at the same time retailers are out there like you and me running businesses. We use smartphones, right? Like we're capable of using the right tools, and so it's like these legacy technology providers had interest in keeping the silos separate and battling against each other, and the industry was kind of held hostage by that, because the suppliers aren't responsible for making sure all the distributors are doing great, right? They've got their group that they want to take care of. And the distributor, they don't want to make sure that all of the suppliers are doing great, because they've got their group of suppliers that are doing great. And the retailers are too busy just like doing what they do to make sure that the rest of the supply chain is working. So nobody had the responsibility to like innovate and drive forward. I think that technology has that responsibility, but for years we were punished by kind of a bad actor that tried to keep everybody separated. And fortunately we don't live in that world anymore.
How's that driven value for you as a customer at the distributor level in that middle tier of bringing the data together and providing insights on a platform, whether that's warehouse operations, the effectiveness of sales, or what order processing looks like? Like, how has that driven value for Eagle Rock?
Yeah, well, I think we had to prove kind of the concept first, right? So, Bill mentioned everybody had their own data sets. Everybody wanted to believe that their data was right and your data was wrong. So we had to kind of just wade deep into it and open everybody's books, open everybody's doors to show this is actually what's going on, or invite third parties into this dynamic to say, well, this is their data. Let's compare notes, right? And I think that has helped. I don't think we're there yet. I think it has helped with that alignment that we're looking for, to get all three tiers speaking the same language, operating from the same sets of data. But it's gotten us a lot closer, and we're happy to be part of that.
So who has the dirtiest data?
Not us.
Yeah, not these.
But that's the thing. I mean, it's living in silos, right? And you have to, to that point, let's talk a little bit about data. Everybody wants it, but people don't necessarily know how to put it to work. So how is Eagle Rock doing a little bit of that? How are they leveraging data? Obviously, you can go down the AI sales path a little bit. Talk a little bit about how it's actually really driving value for you.
Yeah, I think we're just overly cognizant of who we're putting that data, whose hands we're putting that in, right? Who we're letting access it, and what are their true intentions. And I think we've seen the best success by putting it in the hands of our salespeople. I mentioned it, you just mentioned it, how we're using AI to empower our salespeople a little bit, give them insights not only into our vast, complex portfolio, but insight into each and every retailer's business as a singular entity. What are their consumer demands? What are their consumer trends? What are their purchasing patterns? All that kind of stuff is accessible. We've never really been able to leverage it appropriately until now. Now that it's here, the sky's the limit.
And as that provider, from the route accounting perspective, WMS, all those different avenues, Bill, will you share a little bit of you guys got this end-to-end upstream, downstream connectivity of data flowing here and there and everywhere through the three tiers. Talk a little bit about, from your perspective, what value that drives for your customers.
There's an incredible amount of value that can be derived from the information that's available locally and at an aggregated level. The part that's super challenging, I think, is how to properly utilize that information in a way that doesn't create an effect that you don't want, right? And so where Eagle Rock's creating a ton of information and data, and then there's several other wholesalers in this state, right, that are also collecting a bunch of information. Now, if that was somehow pooled together, it becomes even more powerful, right, and even better. But hey, we can't cross the streams.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to hoard their data.
Yeah, but at some point in time, when does the value of bringing that together outpace the risk of bringing it together? And that's a really, really difficult challenge. But until that's solved and we unlock that, there's still a bunch of field left to farm on the data that's unique to the distributor themselves, and it's full spectrum. I mean, everything that they're doing is logged. It's data, passively. Every time somebody moves a case of beer from here to there, it's tracked. We know how long it took, when it happened, and we can even deduce why it happened, right? And sometimes we're telling people to do it, right? Like we even know why it's happening. And then every case of beer that's sold, everything that's delivered, the reason why it was purchased. I mean, we can even get down to like why the payment was late, right? And so there's so much information that goes all the way around. We could get to the point where it becomes really easy to talk about, okay, what happened? And now let's use the data to figure out like what's going to happen. And then when we get to that point, then we know we're really using that data effectively. And I think we're just kind of like touching the surface on predictive analytics. We focused a lot on like storytelling with data, but the next phase is like to get into like, okay, what's going to happen?
Yeah, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and there was somebody mentioned the idea of an out-of-code case, which is just evil, right? Like, I mean, there's a hit to the bottom line for you guys especially, right? I mean, it's just part of doing business, and a lot of people just think that way. And it sucks when product goes on a round trip 1 or 2 times, and then it never ends up in that consumer hand for whatever reason. And it kind of sounds like you can back into that and provide insight as like a real true cost associated with that.
Yeah, I mean, if we like, it should be somewhat easy to use the information that we know, right? Like I got a year or 10 years worth of data, Eagle Rock. I can say a cell that left this building today, we're going to bring this one back. Like which one of those are at risk, right? Like we can use that information. Should we bring it back now or should we wait, right? Like what do you want to do?
The distributor of 2030. What does it look like? Is it radically different?
I don't think it looks too much different from where Eagle Rock is right now. I think, as I mentioned before, it's very lean, it's very agile, and it's very diverse. The separation from Bev-Alc that gap is going to get even wider and wider as wholesalers like ourselves look to leave every truck full when it leaves the building and come back empty. So, yeah, I don't think it's too different, but I think the ones that are open-minded to innovation, there's going to be a lot of automation, a lot of innovation. The sales dynamic, I'm hoping, is going to look a lot different. But we're in a good spot.
What about you? Where do you see this going from the Encompass perspective?
So this is one of my favorite topics, right? Is like what does the future look like? And then there's a science fiction version, right? And then there's kind of like a practical version. But anytime we talk about like where are we going, we need to know where we've been. And so the two macro conditions that have been driving this industry for the last 10, 15 years, 2 of them have been, so one was going to be SKU proliferation, right? Just the constant innovation in products. And that has not stopped, right? Craft beer boom, yep. And then seltzer boom, yep. RTDs, yep. THC, yep. Right?
Pretzels, everything, or snacks, right. Salty snacks, whatever it is.
And there's no reason to say that any of that's going to slow down, unless that freight train is running, adjacent to the other freight train that's running. Are they running parallel, or are they going to collide with each other? And this other one is consolidation, right? And consolidation is happening across all of the tiers, right? So we got 7-Eleven and Couche-Tard merging together. Wholesalers are condensing, right? And the number of wholesalers keeps getting smaller and smaller every year, and suppliers are merging together. And so does all of that consolidation, is that what like stops SKU proliferation and innovation moving forward, or they just keep going? So when you got to write your science fiction novel of like what is the future of the beverage industry, there's two books, right? There's the crash path, and then there's the parallel path. And my favorite's parallel path. And I think what happens on the parallel path is we keep getting more and more products, right? More and more stuff. You and I, we just can't buy enough shit, right? So we're going to buy more stuff. And distributors just keep consolidating. And brands keep consolidating and everything. And I think what you get to is a territory gets delineated not necessarily by brand, but by function. And so now, like Eagle Rock's role in the world may be sales, or maybe it's delivery, right? So one company is in charge of fulfilling the beer orders, because it makes way more sense to put all of the beer on a beer truck and then put all the wine and spirits on a wine and spirits truck and have those two buildings separated. I got, company A is doing the wine and spirits, company B is doing all the stuff that comes in a bottle or a can, and then you've got company C, which is out there doing the selling activity of these things. And so they're three separate companies, right? And they have got brand rights for everything, but what's happening with the people and like how they go to market and go to business are very specialized. One specializing in delivery, one specializing in sales, the other one specializing in marketing, or some of the other brands, right? So I think that's science future of the beverage industry, and that will be plenty awesome, because legacy tech has no business in that world, right? Like that's all future tech.
It's incredibly complex. What thought is put behind how you make sure that for your customers it's as seamless and as simple as possible to deliver the things that they need?
Mid-career, I was a product manager, which means I was responsible for, some parts of the software, the features and the functionality of what it does. Now, your job as a product manager, I don't know if anybody knows this or not, but your job is to say no. Just to say no to everything. Because Todd's asking for shit all the time. These guys are asking for stuff, and my job is just to say no to everything, and then finally deliver something. I made a transition out of product management. I ran our partner program and our services, and when we created this partner program, it was no longer the no, it was the yes. We could say yes all the time, and this was a monumental pivot in the company, which means we could work with all of the tech companies that were out there, and it created this mechanism in which we weren't responsible for building every single interface. We weren't responsible for building every single feature. We weren't responsible for taking on every single aspect of that complication. That's the short answer.
The common thing that the three of us share pretty closely is the evangelizing of B2B e-commerce, right? So I was a polite competitor, but also a strategic partner in a previous role that I had. But we were all moving this needle together. What did Encompass provide that helped and allowed Eagle Rock to really push the e-commerce path forward from that perspective? As we celebrated those wins, what was it that really, where they supported you in a fantastic way to push that envelope forward in the industry?
I think looking back, when we started that venture, we took a slightly different approach than some of our competitors in that we offered several different solutions. So at that time, Provi, DSD Link, Bees, there were some other entities out there. We really let the retailer decide which path they wanted to go. Again, we were kind of agnostic how the order came to us. We really wanted that solution to fall within the retailer's hands. Organically, I think DSD Link evolved as the best option for a number of reasons, but primarily because it lived within our own route accounting software. There was no delay in data, there's no delay in exchanges, from other third-party entities. It was completely unbiased from a supplier perspective or anything else. It was just an extension of what we already had, and it was a window for our retailers to look in to see what we were seeing. So it was very easy to make that transition for the retailers, or it was easier. None of that transition was easy for the retailers. This made it a little bit better for the retailers from that traditional legacy ordering systems to an e-commerce platform, knowing that it was part of our RAS.
So B2B e-commerce, or just any technology offering Encompass has, what's important for your end user or your customers to embrace to really drive the value out of what you all deliver?
We'll go to B2B, right? So B2B, the secret to the success of that platform, DSD Link, right, is that it's actually really freaking hard. You're creating a mini route accounting system. So for anybody that doesn't know what RAS stands for, RAS, that's the software that a beer distributor uses, is the RAS. It's the dumbest name, right? But it's an acronym.
It's every day.
It's an acronym for Route Accounting Software, which is a terrible name for what it is. I mean, what it really is, it's the business operating platform for a distributor. Like, it does all the stuff. And when you make a B2B app, so for the retailer to order online from the wholesaler, what you effectively have to do is make a little mini light version of a RAS, which is a business operating platform, and give it to the retailer. That's hard. That's really, really hard, especially if you're not like a native RAS company. And it turns out, yeah, everybody's doing it, and but it was hard. And it was hard to get right, I guess, is the right answer. It was easy to do, but hard to get right. Luckily, I mean, we got it right? We just happened to be, in the right position to get that done. And when we initially launched it, we had no idea who the winner was going to be, like what was going to be the right way. But we did know that distributors needed it, they wanted it. This was like not distributor today, distributor of the future. Like this was going to be part of that program. And so we knew it had to be done. And then so for us, like the main thing was like just to make sure that Eagle Rock was able to accomplish their mission, which was to get B2B in the marketplace.
Bill, is there a pain point that you're aware of in the distributor space, or maybe it's the supplier space, right? Like you guys work really closely with suppliers, retailers, everybody in the 3-tier system. Is there a pain point that you're really excited about trying to figure out how to solve in the next year to 18 months? What's on the radar?
Yeah, well, so the thing that's like on my desk, right? Oops, dropped my beer cap. But the thing that's like on my desk to figure out is the collaboration between all the tiers, but the focus is between the supplier and the distributor. And so what we're working on here is, again, breaking down the barriers of like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, right? Nonsense. Like we can absolutely do this. Take Eagle Rock, for example. A threat to their business at some point in time, right, is going to be the ability to acquire new brands. You're in the phase now where like, boom, it's easy to collect brands. But eventually you get to this point where like, how do we convince a new brand that Eagle Rock is the right place for us? Because a new brand is developed online. I mean, all new brands are built online. Like that's my point of view.
What do you call that? What's the phrase you used? Omnibibulous?
Omnibibulous. Omnibibulous just means like that you'll drink
everything,
anything.
right?
You'll drink anything.
Drink anything,
but
right?
New brands are built online. Like it doesn't happen without a digital touch. And brands that are going to build and thrive and become the next Surfside or High Noon or whatever, right? Like they're doing this with digital, and they're doing this boots on the ground stuff. And what they want to be able to do, right, is to find a wholesaler when they're expanding that allows them to still have some control over that end-to-end experience, because that's what they're controlling. They're controlling digital, they're controlling what's happening in the store when the consumer goes to buy it. So when you go buy something like that, you get this really special experience, right? It resonates with you. That's why they're able to grow. What will hold a distributor back in the future is the fact that the brand might have to give up some of that. Right, or like, oh no, we're going to trust Eagle Rock to do all of this work out in the field. That's a big leap of faith for a brand that's been kicking ass, doing it their own way for a long time. Now, where Eagle Rock is going to win every single one of those deals is when they're like, no, we collaborate through technology. Like it is seamless, it is easy. It's like you bring your digital content, it goes to where it needs to go. Like we've got ways to measure it. We will actually enhance your ability to do those things as a growing brand. Every single brand, boom, boom, boom. I want Eagle Rock. I want Eagle Rock. I want Eagle Rock. It's not even a deliberation at that point, right? They all go that way, and so that's why this is important. And I think that no one's really solved this problem, and we're looking at it as though it is a problem, right? Because there's like the legacy way, and that's not very good. But there's a better way. There is a future, and I think that is ultimately going to benefit Eagle Rock immensely. Not today, but it's going to take a few years, but eventually it's going to happen, and you're going to be like, thank God, like that actually was really good.
If you two could design a playbook together, forget legacy rules, systems, silos, all that good stuff, what's the first thing you guys would rewrite?
Bill mentioned what's on his desk. I'll tell you what's on mine is changing the role that the sales rep plays with order fulfillment or just getting an order or order generation in general. There's so much wrapped up in just getting an order created. So much time, so much energy, so many different ways to do it. so many different challenges that you face just to get it built. I would love to rewrite that and have it 100% either automated or more powered by technology than it is right now, and repurpose our sales reps to do, as I mentioned earlier, that sales consultative approach, right? We've got so many brands. We are busting at the seams from a SKU perspective. All of those brands need to be addressed. They need to be talked about. They need to be sold. Some of the smaller ones, the esoteric brands, they need to be nuanced and massaged and romanticized. These guys don't have the time to do it if they're just counting cases, building orders, plugging away at their iPad. So the faster we can get to a point where none of that really matters, we're all trusting the data, we're trusting the insights, we're trusting the program, the order's kind of taken care of by I don't care what program, the better off we're all going to be. I think our retailers are going to be in a better spot because their orders are more accurate. They're not tying up so much capital into stuff that they don't need, cases that are going bad, they're not sending stuff back. Right product, right account mentality is going to put us where we need to be.
You just crisply articulated the use case for AI at a wholesaler. Right, that is where it is. So, I mean, the application of AI in a business is this, right? As a business, you're looking like, okay, if I'm going to take on all this extra compute of AI, it has to offset something, and that thing that it rightly should offset is going to be human time, right? And then, so if we're able to replace this chunk of human time with computer processing power, now I have all this extra time that I can reinvest back into the business and use it to drive value here, and here, right? And so rewriting from the ground up, like we have this opportunity to like do this now, right? And to go forward. So we're doing that right now, like this, and it's fantastic.
Well, gentlemen, look, I appreciate your insight today. I hope everybody can take a little bit away about what we've talked about today. This industry can always use more conversations like this and thought leadership and ideas to help move everybody forward. So I really appreciate both of you for joining me today. Cheers. Boom. This has been Pallets to Pints.
Thank you. Yeah.